So I guess without further ado, I want to introduce Kelsey Shkarwitz. She is a renowned 3D designer. She's also a lead designer at PVH Corp, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about that. In this workshop particularly, we're going to let you know how 3D can support and transform your designs, that it will help you create, and I'm going to just be admitting people as I talk. It's going to help you create, and through digitization, you're going to be able to see your dream designs come into reality, and your ideas come into reality in such a shorter span, a shorter time to market, with diverse and sustainable solutions. And she's going to tell you what it takes to be an evolving fashion designer in the industry today. So Kelsey, without further ado, I want to hand it over to you, and you bestow us with all of your magic.
Wow, I don't know if I can live up to that, but so hi guys, I'm really excited to really be a part of this, and I get to share with you both my experience, and then for any of those who of you that are interested and take this course, because at the end of 12 weeks, you guys can be doing what I'm doing now. So let me get started with my background. About 4 years ago in PVH, they decided to upskill the design team. And really it was a slow transition. They started out pioneering it with the designers, just a few people, see how it works. How does it work? How does it speed up the process? And they were just overwhelmed with how great it really was. It took some time getting used to, and definitely there's like pieces that you put into your, what we call our toolbox. But once we started hitting the ground running, we just saw that this was a huge time saver. And I'm going to be teaching anyone who's in the course how I learned. So Browseware is broken into really two different pieces, Loda and V-Stitcher. And at first, they only gave the designers Loda because they didn't want the designers messing up the pattern pieces. So they like froze the pattern pieces. So Loda allows the designing to happen topically. And that's really great. And I think that gives you the freedom to be creative and know you're not going to mess it up. And then now that we are like running and 100% in 3D, we're transitioning and using V-Stitcher so that the everyday designer can make those design and pattern changes. And so anyone who comes on the ride with me will do basically what I did in a very short amount of time. And so the benefits that we really came out of 3D was we're able to decrease our sampling to about 20% of the line, and really showcase the 3D designs as if they're samples. And what that means in the back end is that we can have a shorter calendar to go to market. We're more sustainable. Our design time is shortened, and then our changes just get so much faster. And then our 3D designs can go to the end use consumer. If you actually, not right now, but afterwards, if you go onto Tommy Hilfiger's website, they have 3D designs as if they are selling that product. I think they had like a, keep your eyes out, it was like a short sleeve sweater polo thing. It's completely 3D. It's not real, but that the end use consumer is showing that, they're showing that as if it's a garment. And so imagine the possibilities if you don't have to sample your products. If you don't have to, do a photo shoot, you can have your avatar do it for you. And if you get the garment looking the way you want with only one prototype, because you already know what it looks like because you're looking at it on the model in 3D. So we just made this transition. I absolutely love using it. I think that this is where the industry is going. And I think it also is a sustainable way to design. And so I'm really happy to share this with the up and coming designers because I think it's a better way for our industry to, just to be more eco-friendly. Also, PVH isn't, it's one of the few that are actually upskilling their designers in-house. Most companies really don't have the time to do that. And so really, by taking this course, you become this amazing, qualified designer that can be paired with more senior designers in the industry because they don't have this skill. This wasn't this wasn't available to them when they went to school, and their employer is not offering it. So this really gives you an edge and your foot in the door to be very useful and a gem in the industry. I'm so sorry if you hear my husband and my dog. So anyway, that's what we're gonna talk about today. That's a little bit about me and how much I love designing in 3D. Isabella, you got a few more questions for me?
Yes, and anybody that joined in, there's so many people that are joining now. Just so you guys know, if any questions at all, as they come to mind, please put them in the chat. At the end, we will go through a Q&A, and we just want to talk a little bit more about how the workflow in V-Stitcher and Loda and Browzwear overall. So we all get that Browzwear is the overarching program, the 3D program. And within Browzwear's program, there's two aspects that we'll be focusing on. And Kelsey's going to take you through both. And you'll see how experience you get, and I'm sure when Kelsey does the demo, she's going to show you a little bit more on the different aspects and the tools that you're going to need when you do go into that next level, into that V-Stitcher coming from the Lotus side. So the Lotus side will not let you mess with the pattern. It'll let you be able to do colorways and insert different patterns and fabrications in there and still render so that you see the three-dimensional aspect. And she's going to show you the images and some workflows of her own that you can really get an idea of what you'll be doing literally in that class starting on June 28th. And once you get through the Loda aspect, you will move on to the V-Stitcher aspect. And it's really a beautiful situation in the sense that right now, see, people are still joining in. So we'll definitely recap on everything that Kelsey said. And we'll talk just a little bit more, like what makes Browseware different, Kelsey? We know that there's other 3D tools on the market. We actually, went back and forth what would be the best for NYSD, because we are a trade school and we are fashion focused on real manufacturing and real time, real industry workflows. And I just want you to talk a little bit more about, what is the difference between Browseware and other 3D programs?
Definitely. So I would have to say that right now there are two leading companies out there in the 3D rendering, right? It's really, in my mind, it's Browzwear and it's Clo. And I think that they're both great, right? But they're different because of how they got started. And so Clo has its background in animation. They are animation first, and then they are building on that to design and move into the apparel industry. And that's why their animations look so great, right? That's what they do. Browzwear's story actually came from the fashion industry and then is moving into a digital platform and moving into animation. And what I like about Browzwear is it's an open platform. So it's allowing these other plugins and other companies to come in and play and test out their, what makes Browzwear great, because Browzwear creates the clothes. But then if you want to use like an animation program called Blender, where you can, design the skin of your avatar and all of this, you can do that in Blender and then bring that in. Browzwear allows that open ecosystem of learning and growing. And I think that's what's going to make this, this company so successful, because it's really creating like a Silicon Valley vibe for the fashion industry, where you can just like learn and grow because you have to be so, to be at the cutting edge of technology. And so I really like Browseware. It also, because of how it's set up, and I touched on it a little bit about how I was brought into 3D, it makes it easy for the workflow to allow itself right into the industry. So I actually work with my tech design person. My tech design works with our factory, and then we get our basic blocks. And those basic blocks are really vetted and worked through so that we like the fit. We recognize that it's accurate to what we're used to looking at in physical form. And once it gets blessed by the factory and by our tech, that becomes a block that we use and then continue to expand on in Loda, making the changes to it, changing out like a fleece for a French terry, changing out a piqué for a jersey, applying all these different seam lines and really like cool stitching, maybe artwork, prints, all of these different things and trims. That is really what we're building on. And that's really what Browzwear is great for, is that workflow, to go from, the factory does what the factory does best, right? And they are basically saying, this is what we will provide to you. And that's why I think they're also moving towards spitting out a tech pack from the 3D platform. Right now, like, yes, it's really amazing to render out your avatar and all of your colorways, and you can turn them in different angles and you can see different pieces. I think that's really great, but how does this make a designer's job easier, right? From like the beginning to end. If I make it once and I spend all the time, putting all of this effort in, can I just send the file to the factory and be done? Like, do I have to make a tech pack? So they're thinking of those solutions because they're super fashion industry focused. And so all the other pieces, they're going to allow those other animators to do what they do best and to plug in and to make it better. But I feel like, for me, Browzwear's accuracy in how it treats garments is definitely at the forefront. So I hope that explains the two.
Definitely. I think that that's why NYSD really went with Browzwear, because as you said, it's the Silicon Valley of 3D. This is really new. This is just emerging, and even a company like PVH Corp only started using it 4 years ago. So we're really at the beginning, where we are in the front of technology, and we have to decide as designers, do we want to be able to make something pretty, or do we want to be able to produce something worthy? And I think that at the option of being able to produce something worthy and then still being an open source, as Browseware is, and being able to even work with Chloe, that's why we decided to go for it. And one of the other things that we had talked about, Kelsey and I think that this is really important for all of you that are here today, is that, there's a really high barrier to entry when you think about Browsware's cost. And right now in June of 2021, they will be making a student membership, so that once you do finish the course in Browseware, you will be able to buy a smaller membership so that you can continue honing your 3D skills. And I think that that's super important for you to have in the back of your head, because yes, a $7,800 key is very, very different than $20 to $50 a month. And so from a financial standpoint and an economic standpoint, as a student and a small designer, I really want any of those questions that you might have to go in, to definitely come into the chat if they come up for you. So Kelsey, what do you think about how can it really enhance your current portfolio? So I know that a lot of people here raised their hand that really weren't clear about what 3D design is. Now that we have a little bit more of an overall aspect of what 3D design is, what can it do to enhance your portfolio as a designer, especially that you took that bridge from regular design to technical 3D?
Absolutely. So actually, this is a pretty good segue that I can share with you some of the finished product of what I've been doing at my job and then compiling it together. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I think it's important to note that you know, you still need the basics of designing, right? This is really just how can we make the garments look more realistic? How do we get to the end use consumer faster, right? How do we trust our CADs to make better decision making? Those are all really great bonuses from using 3D. I will say that also, you know, just you're less surprised when you get a sample because you know what it's going to look like. And so you're not wasting money getting it to the point where you're happy with it. But the end use, let me go ahead and show you how this can enhance a visual. Let me show my screen. And then hopefully this pops up. There we go. All right. Can you guys see this? Oh, let's see.
Yes.
Do you see my little Hawaii?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so we did a, I think this was spring 21 for Izod. The theme was Hawaii. And as you can see, this is just blending the graphics that come from your surface design, your pattern design, the photo shoots, as well as the 3D end products. And so it's really a mixture of all of it. None of it goes away, right? So you still come up with a concept, you still come up with a mood board, you have a color palette. That all just helps get you to a point where you're making smarter, quicker decisions within 3D. But what's really wonderful is when you can sample one piece and then you have the trust in your CAD that you don't have to sample all of the others. And so this garment is this guy right here. And so you have, what we've been able to do is sample this one item for touch, feel, drape, and then really from that, because you still can't touch it, we're not there yet, right? From there, you can trust that, oh, I like this. This is a great fabric. And then you can sell all of the other colorways, right? And so
on the left, those are all made in Browswear. Those are all renders. Those aren't actual shirts.
So that's what's really great about it is like you can choose your key looks for a photo shoot, but then you can sell endless colorways of it, which is really great. You can also test out what prints will look like and scale them so that you're happy with them. And I have a few other ones. Graphics is really great. Getting the placement and the size correct. Like you're not printing out a big graphic and then hoping that it's the right shape and size and how far down on the body. That's been huge. This is a great resource for us. And so enhancing your portfolio, I don't even have in here like the avatar doing a little walk. Like you can absolutely export, you know, with I think they have turnstiles and GIFs where you can spin the product. That's another thing. I can tilt these guys so I can show the sleeve, right? If you had to do this in Photoshop or Illustrator, you'd have to design, like you'd have to make another flat sketch just to show an angle, right? And then you'd have to match those colors and that look exactly how you wanted. Like what about a detail sketch? I can zoom into the neck and show you a detail sketch. So it might take a little more time to get it exactly how you want, but then the possibilities are endless. And that's what speeds up the process. That the entire like soup to nuts, you know, solutions that this provides. So this was just our capsule. As you can see here, like we would just be showing flat. You know, this would be almost as far as you could take it, just a flat rendering of the stripe, but I'm able to see it, size it. What does it look like on the sleeves? What does that artwork look like? I can show you fall as well. Again, designing is still designing. You still have a color palette. You still have a story. In the class, what our end product will be is you come up with your a capsule of your own. And so really, you still have to have a concept to go forward with. And once you have that concept, you build in garments into that. And we'll be building on really our practice files that we start off in the beginning so that you really can design your own looks when you're done. So this was a varsity vibe. There you go. That's what 2D looks like. That's pretty boring, right? Nobody wants that. This is way better, way more fun. And so really, it's just now our salespeople are used to seeing this. Like the buyers are used to it. They need this now. And so even people who were hesitant to move into 3D are now looking for people to come onto their team just to be able to do this, right?
I mean, I think it's amazing if we would show that side by side, just the photo shoot alone to show the different styles where it's a thousands and thousands of dollars of savings. And the time, it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely being able to, yeah, being able to get somebody to, and I'm telling you, speed is key in the industry, right? And so you're not going to spend a ton of time making your CADs have the right, the shadowing and all of this. Like, yes, you can do it for your portfolio so you prove that you can, but why not let 3D do that for you? Why not post your garment a million different ways so that you can show all your angled shots and not have to design it more than once? That's the best part. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that.
I love that. I think that we're ready for everybody to see what it looks like on a 2D and 3D screen, to see what the difference, like how to really render, how to make that colorway, how we change the patterns. But I think it's really interesting that we're working backwards and you showed us what's the end result, right? That's what you really want to get to. You want to get to a portfolio that you feel confident that's going to show realistic 3D designs and actually be able for you to start producing and have your client or whomever it is that's backing you, or your boss perhaps, feel confident in that this is really what your design is going to look like. And it's just incredible. But yeah, we would love to see I think a live demo maybe of actual, yeah. Sure.
So first and foremost, I want to just put in a little plug in. If you don't, let me get this rolling. Okay. Should be able to see my screen in a second. So we're going to start out the class with basic blocks. I have a ton of blocks. This is what we, like I mentioned before, our toolbox. The more basic blocks you start with, the easier it then becomes to move forward. And so what we'll be setting the class up with is a few key block silhouettes that we can build from, right? So first and foremost, that'll be our training pieces. From there, that's what we'll be designing in Loda, just so you get a feel of it. And let me go ahead and bring up what Loda looks like. So I brought up a really goofy looking one, so bear with me. So here is my silly looking girl, and I brought her up for a reason. This is what Loda will look like. And you have on the left-hand side is the 2D pattern pieces, and you have the 3D avatar on the right-hand side. And you can design on either side and make changes. And the side you're not on will mimic where your cursor is so that you have a good idea of what you're doing. And I brought this one up because I actually made her print in Illustrator. Let me see if I bring this up. This is just another reason why I love Browseware so much, is you can actually take vector Illustrator files that you've designed your surface pattern designs, and I just saved it as an Illustrator file, and I brought it in as a fabric. Over on my left-hand side, you'll see all of my tools, and you see how they're chunked out. These are my fabrics, my seams, my artwork, and piece assignable trims. And then I've got my color palettes below for the different seasons. And when I'm in my fabrics, I can actually lay on that Illustrator print. And then I can continue designing in here, which I think is really great. Another thing, we'll walk through all of this because I know there's a lot. There's a lot of, it looks like a lot to get your head around, but anything I click on the left-hand side just shows me more information on the right-hand side. And that's how this both Loda and V-Stitcher work. And as you can see here, I've got the fabric, which has the physics, which is the ground, right? And then I have the print, which are my leaves, and it actually tells me, okay, so the ones that were pink, now they're blue revival. And I say, well, I want to make them green. And I said, okay, well, the ones that were this kind of blue, they're mazarine blue. Well, I want to make them yellow. And the ones that were this color teal, I want to make them, this is hideous, so just bear with me. I want to make them red. And you know what? I'm not really loving the scale of this, so why don't I bump this up to 200? Oh, yeah, that's definitely better. Well, maybe I can rotate it. Right? Maybe I need to crop it. All of this is able to do in here. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't even like some of these leaves. I can hit edit and it goes right back to Illustrator. I can make my adjustments, save, and it comes back. So that's really an amazing tool here, which is why I have the really ugly girl with the ugly dress shown.
Yeah, but you do not have that ability in the other platforms that we talked about.
I don't believe so.
No, you don't. And I think that is a huge asset because, you know, all of our students and, you know, everybody in the industry, you need to know Illustrator. Okay, it's standard to create a flat. It's standard for you to do a sketch. And the beauty about this is that not only can you bring it in Illustrator, but you could also export it in Illustrator, correct?
You can export currently. Yes, you can export your changes. And then as far as the garment goes, they're always learning and growing. Let me show you a few more colorway renders, and then colorways, and then I'm going to render them out and show you what the output looks like.
Cool.
So let me just continue making this a little uglier. We're going to take my graphics over here, which are just PNGs, right? It's just a flat image with no background. And I can come over here and I can just resize him. Let me just show you what I'm doing. I'm making a little whale hanging out on her dress. Let me make another one. I'm gonna drop it over here. And now I've started to design, you know, a surface pattern design on her dress. I could tell the factory this is going to be a screen print, like a t-shirt, or this could be an all over print. And what they're working towards now is when you can export this as a tech pack and really show what this looks like. At this moment in time, you can't spit this out and have that be your repeat pattern. But I promise you, they're getting there because they didn't let Illustrator in the first couple years. And they're like, oh, designers actually want this. This is how it flows in the industry. And then that's why they're just learning and growing, just like any other company would be. So once I have this guy made up of my artworks, and maybe I need to put a logo on him. Again, these are just PNGs. This is like a scanned in image, right? And So I believe you guys will be taking a surface pattern class where you can learn the basics of Illustrator, Photoshop, and how to make these pieces. If not, I've got a bunch in my toolbox that we can use to play. And as you start to design your final capsule pieces, you'll be coming up with your own pieces that you want to make and inspire, so that you, at the end of the day, you really like your pieces and they don't look like this one. Here's where the colorways are. So once I've designed this one, I had a couple other ugly ones showing up here. I actually can go into the colorway window. They're all being shown here, all of the different elements that are being used and the colors applied. And when I want to render them, I go to this little render guy. And this is really how they're going to be exported, right? I could always save this file. These are, you know, BW, Browseware files. But I can also spit these out as JPEGs, PNGs, turntables, where it'll just spin for me. I think I actually have that in here, right? So that's just using a turntable. So that's something that you can use in your portfolio. Imagine that your stuff moves. Like, how amazing is that, right? So I can export these, like I said, in any angle, which is why you don't need to make multiple images of your garment. And also, anything in this window is how it'll get spit out. So if I want to be a zoomed in cropped look, that's what's going to be, right? I'm going to go ahead and show you what this looks like. I've got my little preset here, which is made for tops. I'm going to do a normal. We can get into that more. Basically, they have what's called ray trace, which it simulates bouncing light off of the garment for a more realistic shadowing. It takes longer. They're definitely bigger files, but a normal ray trace 300 or a normal render at 300 DPI is fine and fast. Look how fast that was, right? So here I have my BW file. This is the file I'm working on. And then here are my renders. They're just little PNGs with no background. You can easily add them into any assortment, any view. And I can also render, which is really cool, as a waterfall. Let me remember how to do that. And select all and do a multi-pack. And so right now they're lined up on one another, but I can change the positioning for the X, the Y, and the Z axis, and then turn these guys for a waterfall view. So really, the possibilities here for rendering are amazing.
And you could render on an avatar as well, right?
Absolutely. I think I have her turned off. Here you go, include the avatar. There you go. So we just do everything without the avatar. But yes, if you wanted in your portfolio, you have like the one beautiful fashion sketch, and then you have your flats. Like here you go. You can render the same thing multiple ways. And that's, again, where this time saver comes into play, right? This is how you're saving your time. And each one of those is going to look accurate to the product. So that's Loda. And there's a ton more to go into. But really, the next step is V-Stitcher. And they look so similar, which is great, because once you start to know Loda, we're going to move into V-Stitcher. And the only difference here is now you get these fun little buttons to stitch it together. And you can actually adjust the pattern points. And so I could make these, you know, long, hold on, edit points. I could make the garment much longer, and that would look really weird. but it can render what that would look like in very short amount of time. Definitely got to get all the anchor points. So this is where it kind of touches on a little bit of Illustrator knowledge, right? The anchor points function just like Illustrator, super intuitive. And then this little button over here, it actually is blinking because it says, hey, what you just did on one side doesn't match what you did on the other. Click me so I can render this for you. And anytime it's blinking, it's basically saying you need to, match your two sides. And because I stitched it together, it's doing a really fun drape situation because it's going to match it to that piece. I could always come into my stitching here, and as you can see, it's got these little pins, just like you were to pin it in real life. I'm going to click on prepare. Oh yeah, go ahead. Let me see. And you can see where the really virtual stitching occurs. And see how if you're in your basic sewing class, you know that it's going to gather all of that to this, and that's why that happens. So the realistic elements of this are just so much fun to play with. So I'm really excited. The first couple weeks we'll be playing in the basics, and then we get to move into this as a group, and this is just going to be so much fun because you can continue to play with the topical designs in here as well, but it's almost like the training wheels are off and we get to make some really fun things. So yeah, so this is stitched together. I could come over here and I believe it's this guy, and I can match to seam. And then I can grab it and align it and dress. And so then it says, okay, well, let go of the piece. I'm just going to line the 5 inches and the 5 inches and leave the rest falling. And so that's really how you'll start making all your cool things from our basic blocks. I've made some really ugly things just now, but I just want you to know, like, this is how you can do it. It's quite a bit of pressure to make something look good and also do it in front of everybody. So what else can I show you here? So that's really it. That's stitching the pattern pieces. In here, once it's done simulating, I could insert new pattern pieces, and then I could stitch them on top. And that's really gonna allow you guys to just take some of the basic blocks and just run with them in a really short amount of time. Because we're gonna cut out the bit where you have to get the armhole curve correct and all of that. That's a pattern making class. What we're gonna do here is digital designing. And so we're gonna take a few shortcuts so that you can get really good at this software in a very short amount of time. What else? So from here, you can do absolutely the same things. You can also change your avatar. So that's another really great one in, let me get out of Stitch. In Loda.
So all of those are avatar choices.
Yeah, so in Loda, you can't change your avatar because that would change all of the other pieces. But then you can definitely do it here. A lot of these are what are called, we'll be loading up a couple of these in our training files, but let's show him. That'll be a good idea. And prepare this. Go ahead. He's a very bulky man, so this is going to fit very tightly. Basically, you have all the different avatars that you can play with here. And then the new element in here, which I don't have, is what's called in this file, but I will have for our class, is what's called a parametric avatar, where you can adjust their measurements. And what's really great is you can design the avatar to be exactly your size so that you can go make your pattern pieces just for you. You could also just think of the possibilities of customizing and how you could do this for a client who maybe is, a tough fit on the basic block. Or maybe you just want to go after a certain look and you want to take the basic avatar and make it look like your favorite celebrity. I mean, like, really, the possibilities are endless. Right now I have him in the goofiest right leg bent. Let's fix that. We can have him hitchhiking. Let's get him to simulate this. I'm asking him to do a lot of things while on a web chat, so he's a little slow. But really the possibilities here are endless, and we will touch on the avatar and how to export the avatar in our class. And then also there's a few plugins, if you are so inclined, that I can point you guys in the right direction. It's not my field of expertise, but if you wanted it to like walk the runway, we could look into how to do that. That's really like Browzwear makes, I want to be very clear, Browseware makes the clothes, right? But because it's an open platform, we can work with animation, you know, freebies and tutorials to get it to walk a runway, to have a little video of it. So that's my guy. That's my guy with the goofy shirt.
Hitchhiking with no pants.
No pants.
And pick him up.
Yep. Oh, yes, that reminds me. So in my world,
we had a question about shoes as well. Yeah.
Yes. So in my world, we design one garment at a time in each file, like literally one piece. But for you guys, we'll be designing outfits. So that's really exciting. Also, the great thing, it's very user friendly. I could just copy paste pieces just like you would in Illustrator. So we can make the shirt and then use it multiple times in outfits. So it's, once you get to know it, it's like, it's really interesting. And there is quite a lot to do. And then they supply you, I don't have a few of them loaded, but they supply you with pieces loading to complete the outfit. It's what's called his outfit, his closet. I mean, I guess I have to work on these because these aren't the right fit for this guy, but we can. So yeah, there's so much to do in here. There's so much that you can play around with. You can have different snapshots, which we can get into more, but it's basically, if you can see on the left-hand side here, it took a snapshot at every critical piece. So you could do something where the hood's up or the hood's down. You could take a picture of the guy hiking and then you could take it without. And it allows you to quickly go back and forth in between those poses, which is another thing which could be super helpful to just consistently have, you know, the poses that you want to put in your portfolio. I am not going to bother with these shoes right now, but we can do that at a later date.
So V-Stitcher is for actual sewing and changing the pattern and building the pattern from your first block. And Loda is more specifically for colorways and maybe logos and placement. Can you do that in Loda?
Absolutely. You can do everything that you can do in anything topical is Loda. And then anything non-topical you can do in V-Stitcher, as well as anything you did in Loda, right? So I have my fabrics over here. I could add, what's really great, you can see all the things that I've been working on. I can add from another garment. So let's say I really liked what was happening with this guy. I can open up this older file and I can bring in my pieces that were part of that file. And then I can quickly drag that right on top. Oh yeah, that's a good look. That's a really good look. Right, I can insert a new piece, and I can actually stitch that on as a pocket, which of course would not be that size. But really, I feel like once you've moved on to V-Stitcher and you're comfortable in it, there would be no reason to go back, in my opinion. But the way that it's structured is helpful for the industry, because as an entrepreneur and designing my own line and a super user, I guess you could say, I want to be in V-Stitcher doing all of it. I can trust myself not to touch the pattern pieces. But perhaps if you want an assistant designer at a company, put this graphic on this, put a graphic on this and don't mess it up, then maybe you don't want them to be working on V-Stitcher. Right.
So what are the job opportunities that are available as a 3D designer, even with this first course that that they would actually start and really understand LOTA and actually move into V-Stitcher in this first course, right? So we have this course starting June 28th. They would actually take it. Is there job opportunities out there right now?
There are, absolutely. So I can say right now, with the move that COVID has created for moving to digital, I think it's a race to be virtual. It's a race to be more just efficient. How do you sell a line, to your customers when, your CADs, how can you do this? How can you convey the most realistic look? And how do you trust your garments so that you can, design remotely? So I can say right now, there were just 5 positions opened on, I believe I saw them on an email, but it would basically said designer, like associate or assistant designer 3D 1, assistant designer 3D 2, assistant designer 3D 3. They literally had 5 opening positions because they just wanted to get people up and running to be doing this. I believe that was for Calvin, actually. I don't know if they're still available, but the point is it is out there. People want to upskill. They want to move quickly, and really just knowing this will just be that one piece that gets your foot in the door, so that you are probably working alongside of a much more seasoned and experienced designer. They're going to teach you what they know from the industry, and you're going to teach them 3D. And I think that partnership is what's going to make this like super effective. For job placement.
It's all about collaboration. And, Kelsey just mentioned Calvin. And so for any of you that don't know, that PVH Corp is the largest American conglomerate of fashion designers, which includes Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Izod, Jeffrey Bean, right? Just to name a few, right? So these are the healthy companies that are out there, and this is the skill set that they're looking for. So that's why we feel like it's so relevant, and it's so now, and it's so important for you to have them. So there's a few questions that I think might work at this point, Kelsey, if you don't mind, that I want to go back to. So Latasha Leonard asked, do we need to take design foundation before we take the 3D class? So Latasha, I think that Kelsey could elaborate on this, but yeah, it's super important for you to have those foundational basics, meaning you really need to understand the ins and outs and the tools of Illustrator. And so we've talked a lot about these different 3D aspects that are out there in the industry. And for you to really be able to utilize any of them, you need that basic foundational knowledge of the introduction to illustration. As a designer, as a fashion designer, you really do need that sewing basics and really understanding how patterns are put together. So if you want to go into that V-Stitcher platform, you really understand how to put it together, right, Kelsey? Or what are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely correct, because not only understanding how those pieces are going to move together. What happens if I pull this point and drag it and make it do what I just made Frankenstein do over there. You know, if you don't know what the pattern pieces, you know, how to adjust them in real life, you're not going to be able to do it and replicate it digitally. Also, if you notice, there was no seam allowance on these pieces. And so, and when you bring in patterns, you can quickly remove them or add them. But the point is, there's a little bit of your knowledge that has to go into play to get the seam lines looking correct. And we can get into it more in the class of just like adding depth where depth should be. So, you know, when you stitch something together, right, you actually have like the fabric, the raw edges hiding in the inside. That can create bulk, right? And so how do you show that so it doesn't all look paper thin? That's putting shadowing in the right place. And so all of your knowledge building the garment in real life will help you make more realistic pieces in 3D.
Yeah, and even the demo that you first showed us that said, you know, there's still people entering. Welcome. That's so cool. Everybody wants to see you, Kels. So even at the beginning, when you showed that first Hawaiian themed, you know, you specifically said you're still a designer. You still need to know those basics that we are encompassing when we take our foundational courses, those basics in elements and principles of fashion and how to create a color story and a mood board. Those pieces don't disappear. You're just going to be able to build your skill set on top of those basic foundational pieces. So yeah, I think that is super important as well.
Yeah.
So Anna J asked if the 12-week course starting June 28th is virtual or in person. It is live online, meaning you could be sitting in the comfort of your own home or wherever you are, whatever city or country you are in. We do have a global citizenship of people that are enrolled, and it will be in the evenings. So you have to allot for that time, and there's people all over the world that are taking our coursework. We do have the expectation that you're there live so that you can actually get the breadth of Kelsey's knowledge and have that one-on-one and ask that question. It will be a small class size. So we do encourage you, you know, send us out an email. I'm going to put our NYSD socials in the chat as well as my email, like anything that you need and you want to get on board, please just let me know. But it will be virtual and you can take it anywhere you want. But if you are in New York and you want to come in and use our computers, you're welcome to use our computers. Kelsey, do you want to talk a little bit about the specs of what they need, even though it's a cloud-based?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe, and I can shoot this out in an email as well, but the, you know, most laptops nowadays will work just fine. It cannot be iPad-based. I found that out because I wanted to buy myself an iPad Pro, and yeah, it will not do this. You know, no iOS. It has to be either Mac or PC. But most that are on the market these days, this will work. I think there's a certain amount of memory that you need because it is a large file to run. If we do, you know, have a problem with space, we can start with Loda and then, you know, uninstall, move to vStitcher so that you don't have both running in the background. But I just put it on my pretty old Mac, and it ran just fine. So I think that was from 2012. So it's fine. You don't have to be the most up to date. But I would check on, just go to support.browseware and just look at system requirements, and they can be way more detailed there, just on their general website, because, you know, you're not even going to remember the specs if I tell it to you now. Also, if you are more interested and you want to take a look, they have a couple basic things on that website that just kind of like get you started, but I tapped out that resource and still had a lot to learn. So it's definitely if you're interested and you want to learn more, they have a few things on there to look at, to like pique your interest and see what's out there. But I would say our classes is really They don't have video. They only have like 1 or 2 videos. Everything is written out. And I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy when someone teaches it to me. And then if I have a question like, where is that button? Or, oh my God, it's all collapsing. What happened? I need someone to teach it to me. And so the class itself is going to be active participation, following along step by step. It's not lecture based. We're going to be moving through the software program. So really, if you miss a lesson, you miss it, right? But that just means that it's super great quality tutorials that you're not going to get elsewhere.
Live. Yeah, that's huge. So
Right.
Kiana Markham asked, have you or your teams used Browseware for footwear or accessories such as headwear or neckwear?
We do not, and I have to say, because we are, well, I'm knit sportswear, and we don't do hard goods. I would have to say that, but they interact together. I would say that Browzwear is not the right place to design hard goods because it's really just made to drape pattern pieces around a body. But what you can do is you can bring in your OBJ files of like your 3D files that you've made on that platform that you're used to using for jewelry design or shoe design. You can bring those pieces in to finish a look. And so for that, you can then use a basic avatar to model your look. But really your creation of those hard goods will be elsewhere.
Right. And then you'll be able to bring it in and render it again in a collaborative type environment.
Exactly. You want to zoom in on those shoes. You want them to be walking. That you can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Anna J said, in order to create a garment from certain fabric, does she need to somehow design the pattern myself in Browseware, or the fabric types and patterns are available in the program and just can be loaded onto the avatar?
That's a great question, because the realistic aspects, I mean, there's physics that go behind the drape of these. And so Browzwear actually has designed their own like fabric analyzer, and we won't be needing that, but I will be bringing certain fabrics with us so that you can topically change them. But basically the physics are there and they're editable. So you can start out with a jersey that's only, I'm going to talk shop here, but let's say a lightweight jersey, right? It's 150 grams. That's going to have quite a different drape than a 300-gram fleece, right? And their fabric analyzer will take a piece of fabric and it stretches it and it lays it on this little platform and it sees how it drapes. And so you can absolutely add new fabrics in. But for our purposes, we have a ton of basic physics fabrics with different physical properties loaded up. Browseware has its own library that we'll have with the iCloud, with the software, with the license. You can choose from theirs, and then I'll bring some of mine as well that I've been using as like standard ones for my industry. And the great thing is the physics can then be applied to anything. So if you know that you have a new fabric in your hand that you want to use, and it kind of acts like, taffeta. Okay, great. Then you can go into the library, find a basic fabric quality, and if it still isn't draping enough, you can go into the physics and you can beef up the stiffness and you can beef up some components of it. So do you need to use the fabric analyzer? No. But just know that Browseware has done that to create a library. It is super accurate, and then you can take those components and tweak them as needed to be more realistic to what you're doing. I guess, does that help?
Yes. So Kiana Markham asked, is there a separate tool needed to digitize existing fabrics? Will access be available on our monthly subscriptions?
So that's kind of where you lean into your 2D knowledge. I've realized that my surface pattern design and my Photoshop skills have come into play, but in a different sense, because what you're going to basically be doing is creating a little repeat tile of fabric that you want to show. And so if you have, let's say, like a waffle, let's say like you've got like a, waffle texture, you probably want to scan that in or take a photo of it as best with the best lighting that you can and bring it into Photoshop so that you can get a repeat, so that you can, your swatch is only going to be, 3 inches by 3 inches. But when you tile that out, you're going to want it to look as flat as possible. And so your Photoshop skills come into play when you want to make more complex, textures and designs. It's not, like I said, there is a library of fabrics, so you don't need to do that. But as you get more and more skilled and you want to customize, that's where your 2D knowledge is going to play a part.
Great. So yeah, going back to that foundation, really having that foundation so that you can actually run with your 3D knowledge. So Latasha Leonard asked, can you adjust the Loda body?
Let's see. I don't believe so. It's been a while since I've been in there. No, you cannot. It is like with or without avatar in Loda. And then you can pose the avatar, but she is who she is, or he is, when the file is saved. But you can open the same file in VStitcher and Loda. So you can always toggle back, change it, and then bring it back to Loda. Again, Loda is kind of like the training wheels.
So Eden Busani asked, would you recommend we still know how to sketch even though we're working with 3D?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say, first and foremost, you have to be able to communicate your designs to get them made. And so in the first couple of years that we were transitioning into 3D, it was absolutely faster to just like, this is my sketch of what I want, and then hand it to the tech design person and say, okay, make me this in 3D. And you have to be able to go back and forth with that skill set. Also, I think there's a lot of, you're just always going to be leaning on your skills of building, like, for example, building a tech pack. The way you have to show your garments so that the factory knows what's happening on the front and the back, and you have to show the seams, right? Sometimes you still have to make them like extra dark in 3D so that they show up. And if you're missing one, you kind of have to like, there's definitely something to be said for knowing what it's supposed to look like in 2D so that you can make sure it does a good job in 3D. I don't go back and then sketch my items as a flat sketch. I actually render them out in gray, with like light gray with black stitches. And then I bring those into Illustrator and I draw the lines and say, this is a, 1/4 inch double needle top stitch. And this is a cover stitch. And this is a 1 inch hem. I still put those together on an Illustrator file because we haven't yet gotten that full end use of the tech pack from Loda. I mean, it's coming, but we're not there yet, right? It spits it out, but it doesn't spit it out in a way that my company likes to see it. So I still have to do it in Illustrator. It does, this new edition does have an annotations where you can start to, like, you can freeze a view of it and just draw like please make the hood smaller. And that's how you would communicate with your factory that you want them to adjust it. So there's a whole environment that's going to be happening in 3D where your 2Ds are probably not going to be needed. But what happens if you have an idea in your head and you just need to whip it up and you just need to show somebody? Your 2Ds still need to happen. And you still need to know what factories are used to looking at, so that you can make sure that it's clear for someone across the world to build your garments.
So Latasha Leonard asked, can we take an actual photo of a design and import it into Browseware?
Absolutely. Everything that I showed that was on the left-hand side, they were just PNGs. They could also be JPEGs, which means you could bring in a picture of your dog and have that be your fabric. You know, you could actually bring in the same picture of your dog, have it be your fabric. You could then have it be your seam, which it'll just kind of run along the line, just like a stitch would in Illustrator, just like a brush stroke. Or you could have it be placed as artwork. They're all just components, like they're just JPEGs. They're just artwork components. And it's really up to you to make it look as realistic as possible.
Cool. Yeah. So Kiana Markham asked, are you able to calculate consumption using VStitcher?
They do have a size run capability. And I believe at this point, if I click, I don't think so, but I could be wrong, because you can always just line up your pattern pieces on a block, understanding what your cuttable width is, and you could do it yourself. I feel like it's...
Yeah, I feel like you can calculate it.
You can calculate it very easily. Is it automatic? I'm not sure. But yes, you could just draw a box, just like I drew a box for an ugly pocket, and you could move your pieces and be like, oh, how big is that? And it's always measuring. You click on any item and it'll tell you all the details you'll want to know. So it'll tell you, the size of it. So yeah.
So Esther Adams, our director, our school director, wanted to remind everybody that the classes are in the evening for Eastern Standard Time. So 6 p.m. starting the week of June 28th, which it'll actually be Tuesday. So we know June 29th at 6 p.m., which happens to be my birthday, if anybody was wondering. Kelsey's first class will start here at NYSD at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anna J asked, the pattern pieces, you create them yourselves in VStitcher or import them from another program? Yes.
Either way.
Yeah, either way.
Either way.
I saw that you took some pattern pieces from blocks, but if I want a pattern that is one of a kind, I need to create such pattern from scratch? Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So you can also draw on there with your pen tool, and you can design it from scratch. You can. You can also adjust the points, add more points, curves, just like you would at doing a vector drawing in Illustrator. But you can also upload I believe it's a DXF file, which is what gets spit out when you use like Optitex or one of the pattern makers and pattern plotters. So, and then if you wanted to do your own flat pattern designs, I mean, I've got an old textbook that tells me how to measure and how to angle, and I could do it right on here. Personally, in the industry, you never start from scratch. You always start from a block. So you start from a basic block and you go from there. It's a huge time saver. But if you wanted to, you could do it from scratch.
Great. So Javier Gualman asked, hi, how many times does the course meet a week? That would be one time a week, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays, starting June 29th for 12 weeks. The total cost of the class is a whopping crazy $13.50 for the entire 12 weeks. We're giving you 45 hours of class time with Kelsey for just $13.50. It's actually about $500 less than we were aiming for. So I would definitely say reach out ASAP if you're interested, because it will be limited class sizes. And the next question is, Anna J says, and what is the exact hours of the course? Oh, from what time to what time? I think we answered 6 to 9:30 p.m. So 3.5 hours every Tuesday for 12 weeks. Frank B. Felipe said, will we be emailed the recording of this meeting because I missed the first half of the meeting? Yes, we're going to actually do some post-production from the meeting, Frank, and I will make sure that I email you all of the bullets that we talked about and everything that we tapped on, and Kelsey's demo. Patricio asked, can you upload Gerber files to Browzwear with ease?
I believe so, because I believe the DXF and a few other formats are accepted for Browseware.
And Anna J said, you mentioned Illustrator. This is a separate program which I will need to purchase in order to be able to work with Browseware.
So all I can say to that is it's kind of like needing a pencil for an artist. Illustrator and Photoshop.
Necessity.
It's really, I mean, that is, if you don't know that, if you don't know that, you're not getting a job as a designer. I'll say that for sure. But the great thing about that is they have really cheap student subscriptions that you can have even after you graduate. Yes. Literally, a student subscription is like $21 a month for a student. So once you get your nysd.edu email, you can absolutely get a subscription, but it is something, again, it goes back to the foundational aspect. You need that foundation. You need those building blocks for you to be a strong designer in 3D or any other aspect. So yes, super important. Thanks, Brianna. Happy birthday. Brianna Rathburn asked, do you think this would work well for someone that, like her, that wants to go into bridal design and evening wear? Ooh, as somebody, okay, I have a soft spot for that. I love that. I know just how expensive it can be to make a prototype of that. So if you are going to do it, you're going to want to do it once, and you're going to want to do it right. And you don't have, it can be very costly to make changes in reality after the fact. So I would say this would be a huge time saver. And to be able to mock up your ideas here, I could actually show you guys, but like if I brought in lace, it would lay like lace, and it would be transparent on the transparent pieces. That's kind of that's what I was talking about, where like you design what your fabric looks like. The physics are running in the background, but you can put any image up front. And if your image has holes in it like lace, it will do that. So where a lot of just layering and applique can happen in women's wear. I mean, that's awesome to be able to see that rendered out and like the opacity of it as you turn and move the garment. So I think it would be huge. It would be a great, asset to your designing.
People are still coming in. Yes, 100% for specialty apparel. I mean, like Kelsey said, the cost of sampling for that alone, for you to actually be able to see, and really the way it's moving is, a specialty apparel, you want to have patterns in there, and to be able to change your colorways and see what it would look like rendered with a pattern behind it, and the florals that you do, just because I know you personally, I think that it would be a great asset and would build your portfolio exponentially.
Also, just scanning in the lace that you want to use, cleaning it up in Photoshop, and then applying it to your look. I mean, that's real life, what it'll look like. So imagine what this could mean to a customizable business where you can design you can put the avatar specs in of your client, and then you can actually digitally render the laces that you'll be using. Like, just think about that for a second. That this is huge. You'll be able to say, is this what you want me to make? And if like, this is what you want. And like, that's a, yep. So no surprises, you know, no unhappy customers because they've seen it.
And it's customization. And really, when we think about who do you want to target, what market are you interested in targeting? And for specialty apparel, millennials and exennials, they want customization. They are all about it. And you're going to be able to customize something specifically for your market. It's huge. It's huge. Okay, so Patricio asked, how many people will be in the class? A maximum of 10 at any given point, Patricio. Okay, so that's why we're having this meeting, that we have, you know, 90 people interested in attending just for the meeting. So think about that when, you know, going into a coursework. The maximum we could have is 10 at any given time because there's just one Kelsey and we need her knowledge. So,
you've ever been in a class where you're learning something that you have to step by step do it, you know, after 10 people, you're not moving on to the next step unless everybody moves on to the next step. And so that can be very difficult. And then you know, you can become very disengaged if, you know, if there's a, you know, you're ready to move on, but there's so many people that have to get the tutorial all at once. So if I hope that there's so much interest, and, you know, we can absolutely talk about, you know, perhaps, you know, making sure that everyone can get this course. And maybe there has to be another evening of mine, you know, used up, but I want to make sure that you guys get, you know, the attention that you need and your questions get answered in that amount of time as we move forward and we cover a lot from the software.
And I know Kelsey and we talked about it, and we were talking about, you know, the fact that this class is online for the learning curve aspect. I think it's actually better because it will be live demonstration and you will be doing. This is not a theory class. You need to be doing and performing within the time period allotted. But the beauty of having an online class, and I know as someone, you know, in the early 2000s, taking an online, you know, taking an in-person Photoshop, I'd be sitting at my own computer hoping the professor comes to me. So the beauty about being online, and no matter where you are in the world, is that you can choose to engage when Kelsey is tutoring someone and making sure they're on their flow. You can choose to actually engage, right? Am I saying it right, Kelsey?
No, this is great. So when we were, I just went through another course, just like self-taught. Our tech design wanted to show us some new skills, and doing it virtually was so great. She showed it on her screen, and then she said, you guys take the time to do it on your screen. And then if we had a problem, we could share our screen with them, and then they would direct us on what to fix. And so that's, you know, that level of just being able to go back and forth, and not have it be on a projector far away. You guys are going to be able to just really be in the software and be learning so much easier. It'll be like right there with you, being able to, you know, point on the screen and say, yeah, that button right there. Like, so all of because it's a digital software, a digital platform, I think learning it virtually is actually better.
Yeah, agreed. So everybody's so polite. They're thanking you for your answers. Sarah Aguilar, hi everyone. My name is Angie. I'm about to start fashion design in September. I hope to make new friends. Welcome. Anna J said, I know classes will be live and interactive, but will they also be recorded for the review later in case we miss a class? Yes, they will be. All of our classes are on eStudio. They are recorded and they will be left and they will live on our eStudio platform for the entire duration of the quarter, since we are quarterly. So for the entire 3 months that you are in the school, if you want to go back and you feel like, you know, you missed something, emotionally you weren't fully present that day, whatever the case may be, you can go back and watch it over and over and over again, which is like such a huge benefit, and I think one of the biggest silver linings of COVID that we've had. Yes, they will be live, they will be there, they will be the full duration of the class, and they will actually live there 2 weeks after the class is over. So of course they are they cannot be recorded on your end, but yes, they are there for you, and that is the reason why you're taking that class, so that you can utilize them and watch them over and over again for the duration of 3 months. And they actually appear live on eStudio. They're recorded live, and they appear on eStudio on our platform within 24 hours. Kiana Markham says, if I have an existing set of patterns I have created in Illustrator, would I import these as an SVG, then would I stitch in VStitcher?
So I believe you, I would say you kind of have to, no, I don't believe you bring them as an SVG, but we can get around it where you're bringing it in and then basically tracing, trace on top of it. So yeah, we can, there's definitely ways to do it just because you're just utilizing the pen tool in VStitcher in a slightly different way. And I actually think I saw one from you about interfacings and lining. So there's two different ways, two different workflows for that can be used here. There is a level of, I want to say like, because there's no seam allowance, there's a little level of faking it that happens to make these look good, right? And so you can choose to either, let's take a collar, for example. You know there's a top piece and you know there's a bottom piece. You know you sew them together and that's what makes your collar. And there's probably some interfacing that goes in there. You can just do one collar pattern and then you can design the front and the back differently. You can color up the face and the back, and then you can apply physics to make it double thick. Or you can take two separate pattern pieces and you can stitch them together and treat them as realistic pieces. Both will give you the same result. Some people choose to do it the one pattern piece because maybe it's easier to stitch it together. And then they just call it double. So they know that they've doubled the thickness in the physics for the fabric. And then other people want it to be as realistic as possible with the pattern pieces. And really, it's just how you like working. And that's what's really great about it. Is there's a lot of different ways to get, you know, a similar result. There's a bunch of different ways to utilize it and just be creative on the platform.
Sarah Aguilar asked, is this a competition? No, but there's a lot of aspects with Browseware that there are some competitions that you can enter as a student for Browseware, but no, this is not a competition. This is only a competition with yourself to be the best designer you can be. Kiana Markham says, if I want to add items to the closet, for example, hats and shoes, do these need to be in 3D to be used on the avatar?
I believe so. But I also think there's, again, ways that you can get around it. There's ways that you can apply transparent pattern pieces and then put graphics on them that gives a similar look. So you can definitely get creative if, you know, the way the software runs is not, you know, what you have. Let's say you've got something you've just designed. We can find creative ways around it.
Cool. Sandy Nava said, this is really great. Hi, Sandy. Thank you. Brianna said, is the price of this course included in the tuition for the April program? I would have to ask Esther about that and get back to you. You know, moving forward, right now, this is an a la carte class if you want to take it, but I know that we are going to be implementing it within our curriculum for those of you who haven't taken foundations yet. So I'm going to check on that and get back to you, Brianna. Anna J, do you plan to run another 12-week cycle after this one ends? Absolutely, at least one, depending on how many people we have left over that we can't fit into this first class especially. Sarah Aguilar, do you make money in fashion school? Well, you can make money if you know 3D, right? I think that we kind of tapped on that today.
I know quite a lot of people who can, you know, use this skill set in many different ways. And the fact that it's something that you can do virtually might even open the possibility of more remote positions, which I find very interesting, which means you're not stuck being in the same geographical location.
Right. So anywhere you are and you want an hourly paycheck that is significant in a tech industry, an emerging tech industry, as we've discussed tonight, yes, yes, and yes.
We have a 3D tech person who's currently in Denver, and she helps us because she knows the program so well. So there you go.
Yeah. Patricio asked, does the software come with the payment of the course? Yes, it does. It is all cloud-based. You will have access to the software. We still have people coming in. You will have access to the software for the duration of the course, and you will also, I think that will last like another 2 weeks, just like our eStudio platform. So it'll follow the same specs, but absolutely you will have the program for the duration of the course. And the good part is the way we're starting it, and right when we're starting it, is that by the end of the program, you'll also have access to a student membership after you graduate or after you succeed and finish the program. Kiana Markham asks, how to interfacings? You answered that a little bit earlier, right? Her lining questions. And Latasha Leonard, will NYSD have a virtual meeting about the design course offered? I'm not about this course or other courses. Latasha, are you still here? You can unmute yourself.
Hello. Hi. Yes, I was talking about the courses that you offer, you know, for fashion design.
Yeah, I'll put my email in here, and I could have a one-on-one with you, a virtual meeting with you, and I could tell you literally everything that you need to know. So I'll put my email in here, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I kind of work around the clock, so I'm always available to you.
Well, I would actually like if I could possibly speak with a teacher.
Yes.
Is that possible? Okay.
Absolutely.
Have a meeting with the teacher?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So Anna J said, will we get an official certificate after the course of completion? It is not a certificate program, but you will be able to, more importantly, get work at the completion of this program. You will have the skill set that you need to either exemplify your portfolio as it stands, or be an assistant designer in industry, as Kelsey had noted. So
yeah, I can say no one has ever asked for any of my certificates or anything. It's really just, can you do it? And what's your portfolio look like?
Exactly. So Eden said, thank you for this. It's a tremendous that we learned here today. I'm looking forward to discussing it over email. Thank you, Eden. Ditto. Javier said he missed a part. Will I need to buy the program separately, or the membership comes with the duration of the class? We definitely answer that. Yes, it comes with the duration of the class. Kiana says, thank you. You're welcome. Sarah, so in September, everyone starts class in person or online. We will still be hybrid. Like we talked about, Kelsey and I earlier in this meeting itself, is that it's actually, this type of class is more conducive to be online, and we will still have a hybrid program, meaning you could take this program from anywhere in the world, or if you want to come in to our computer room, we have an entire room of computers. You're welcome to come in and take it in NYSD if you feel like you could focus more outside of your home. So either way, but it will be live and online, even in September. Kiana said, are we able to spec out all parts of the avatar's body, the hands to fit soft accessories, gloves, using V-Stitcher?
I would say there's points of measurement that you can move and adjust. And so by expanding those certain points of measurements, everything just kind of morphs and flows. So I would say yes, but depending on the amount of precision that you need, it might be not quite where you want it to be, because it's really just trying to capture the overall body. So there might only be like 1 or 2 points of measurement on the hand itself. I can pull it up as well and send it to Isabella so she can. We
Send
can
it out to all you guys.
Yeah, I can even definitely put a couple more things in here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will definitely follow up with everybody that was here and some of the people that missed it and really wanted to come. I got a lot of emails at the beginning of this. So yes, we will send those out to you. And again, the price of the program is $13.50 for the full 12 weeks, 45 hours. Rachel Ricardo asked, for the software, how much laptop MB RAM will you recommend? Is 6 megabytes of RAM capable for it? You know, I had done the 3D training in Clo, and it was incredible what I needed, the graphics cards and the RAM and everything. But Browzwear is, because it's, for whatever reason, it was a lot less, the requirements. I don't know the exact specs, but I promise you guys I will send that out to you as well.
Yep. I think if you go to support.browseware.com and then you look in their references and you look up system requirements, you'll be able to get all the specs that you need. I believe it might, I think they're suggesting 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
But I think that's just a general suggestion.
And Sarah asked, is there any other supplies that we need? And I know you and I went through this, Kelsey, so if you want to just touch on that.
Yeah, no, I think primarily this course is going to be taught like learning a software program, right? So if you want to poke around the Browsware's website and just see what it's about, that's great. Not needed. We're going to walk through from the very beginning. You know, I think the only thing is, once you're signed up, we'll just make sure that you can get on to the just the screen that you have it loaded so that we can just up and running from the very beginning. But I will bring everything that you need. I'll bring the, you know, the files to get started, and then really where you take it and what topical, like what designs, what surface pattern designs, what images of fabric, what artwork patterns you want to apply, that's up to you. And that's where your creativity is really going to take this and make it your own.
So is there any discount? Yes, the discount is $500 off of what we had initially put out there. And it's competitive in the sense that there is another fashion school offering it, and they are only offering 32 hours. We're offering 45 hours. It's much more extensive. We go into V-Stitcher at our school. Sometimes it's only based in LOTA, meaning you're not really able to adjust your patterns. So I think that your base of knowledge and the discount is $500. And we cannot guarantee that that will be the same price come September or the next one. So definitely let me know if you're interested. Definitely reach out via email. I will give you the links and the next steps. It's super easy. We'll walk through it together. If you are already an NYSD student, definitely reach out. And Brianna, I will definitely get back to you about that. Because we'll see what we can do for you if you were a previous student as well. Fashion Perks asked, will this be emailed to all attendees? I missed a lot of it because my service is bad. Yes, yes, and yes. We will definitely send you a recap of tonight and some links that if you want to learn more that Kelsey talked about, especially the support.browseware. And you're welcome. Everybody said thank you so much, Kelsey. Is there any other questions while we still have Kelsey and while we have you guys here? All right, well, I feel like we covered it all. You're welcome. Thank you guys for attending. Thank you for spending your evening with us and donating your time to figure out how to make your fashion future the best it could be. And, you know, this is the way the industry is moving. And, you know, any last thoughts, Kelsey, like for all these new designers that are out there, or that these designers that want to upskill?
I'm so excited because I'm really excited to share with you guys what I know, what's going on in the industry. I'm so happy to bring people on this journey, and also like be able to just at the end of this, you will have a digital, you know, fashion capsule, you know, collection, a little capsule collection to put into your portfolio. And as however you take that and run with it is going to be really exciting to see. So I'm really cannot wait to start at the end of this month. And yeah, based on so much interest that I see here today, I feel like we'll be doing maybe quite a few more.
I think so. Kiana has one more question. When you look at a 3D designer's portfolio, what's the most important examples that you really want to see?
For me, I want to see, so that's going to be whenever you look at someone's portfolio, it's really what they want to see is they want to see that you get the brand, right? So you will use your portfolio to really go after what you want to be designing, who you want to be designing for, what the position you want to go into. They're going to see that do you get the brand that they are so that you'll get that look. I would say you can just take 3D and run with it, the coolest that you want it to be, because you can use your flat sketches and you can change things up to show that you understand their brand. But this is really a technology. You want to show what you can do. So I would say you have the freedom to make something really spectacular that just shows how amazing you are at this software, because that's what they want to see with 3D. And then your aesthetic can come through in the other pieces of your garment. And they, you know, there's definitely always the, can you make us a little, you know, couple sketches that look like us, right? But really your 3D elements are showing how you can, do you know the system and how well can you manipulate it? And for that, it can look like anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
and I just, as a visual person, I just keep seeing your 2D renderings of your stripes and the differential in the 2D renderings of the stripes and how flat and blasé they were compared to the next page, and on the 3D, how they pop and they form, and it's 3D. It's just amazing. It's
well, those stripes were what was that was accepted in the industry for years. So imagine like you're a merchant and you're used to looking at that, like, because like I said, because speed is key, it didn't always look picture perfect. They were, quick and fast and throw that stripe in there and see if it looks good. And with 3D, you now become like this graphic designer as well, which is really interesting. It's like this weird hybrid mix between a fashion designer and a graphic designer, which I think opens up a lot of doors.
100%. And just think about all of these virtual fashion shows and these mixes and the ability to, on these open platforms that are free, for you to actually show your work and show your work as a 3D designer. And you'll be able to do that just by the end of this program. You'll have a full portfolio. So I'm super excited, guys. Last chance, any questions? All right. Yeah, Natasha, yes, you need to know Illustrator. Okay, so I would suggest that you first take Illustrator, take the fashion foundations for these 3 months. So anybody that doesn't feel comfortable in Illustrator, Illustrator for the fashion designer is very different than Illustrator for the self-taught tinkerer, graphic visual designer, i.e. me, what I used to be, okay? So you need to take our illustration course for fashion design at NYSD as a fashion designer or elsewhere, you know, but yes, you do need it in order to do this program. It's super important. So take the foundations. We could talk more about that. We'll talk one-on-one. You can talk to other professors as well. And I'll tell you more about that. But yes, you guys really need Illustrator. You need those foundations to move forward. Okay, you guys are amazing. We'll definitely send follow-ups.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This has been great. I hope to see some of you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you on June 29th. Bye, everyone.